Min-seo stood in her apartment holding the NASA envelope. Her hands were shaking so much that she almost dropped it. She couldn't bring herself to open it. What if it was a rejection letter? What if NASA was telling her that her project wasn't good enough? She didn't think she could handle more disappointment. Not today, not after everything, but she had to know. She couldn't stand here forever. Min-seo took a deep breath. She carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a thick packet of papers. That was a good sign, right? A rejection would just be one page. She pulled out the papers. The first page had the NASA logo at the top. She started reading. Dear Miss Min-seo Park, congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a finalist in NASA's Young Innovators Challenge. Min-seo's vision blurred. She had to read the sentence 3 times before it made sense. She was a finalist. She was actually a finalist. She kept reading. Her heart was beating so fast. Your project on sustainable water recycling systems for long-term space missions impressed our panel of judges. Your innovative approach combining traditional purification methods with modern space technology shows exceptional creativity and scientific understanding. They liked her project. NASA scientists liked her project. They said she showed exceptional creativity and scientific understanding. They said that about her, about Min-seo Park, the girl who was unfit to learn. Her hands shook as she kept reading. You are one of 50 finalists selected from over 5,000 entries nationwide. You're invited to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, for the final competition on December 15, 17. 50 finalists out of 5,000 entries. She was in the top 1%. She couldn't believe it. The letter continued. During your visit, you will present your project to a panel of NASA scientists and engineers. You will tour our facilities, meet working astronauts, and participate in workshops led by space industry professionals. You will also be paired with a NASA mentor who will work with you to refine your project. Min-seo started crying, but these were happy tears. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than sadness and shame. She felt joy. She felt pride. She felt hope. The letter went on. NASA will provide travel expenses for you and one guardian. We will also provide accommodation for 3 nights at a hotel near Johnson Space Center. If financial assistance is needed for any other expenses, please contact the number below. They were going to pay for everything. Her mother wouldn't have to miss work or spend money they didn't have. NASA would take care of it, Min-seo screamed. She couldn't help it. The sound came out of her like an explosion. She screamed with happiness and relief and excitement. She heard footsteps running up the stairs, then knocking on the door. It was their neighbor, Mr. Rodriguez. He sounded worried. Is everything okay in there? He called through the door. Min-seo ran to the door and opened it. Mr. Rodriguez was standing there looking concerned. He was an old man who lived alone in apartment 3B. I'm sorry, Min-seo said. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Everything is okay. Everything is wonderful. I got into NASA. Mr. Rodriguez looked confused. NASA, the space agency? Yes, Min-seo showed him the letter. I entered a competition and I'm a finalist. They're flying me to Johnson Space Center. Mr. Rodriguez read the letter. His face broke into a huge smile. Mija, this is incredible. I'm so proud of you. He called down the stairs to other neighbors. Mrs. Garcia. Mr. Lee, come up here. Min-seo has amazing news. Soon, several neighbors were crowded in the hallway. They were all reading the letter and congratulating Min-seo. They were all so happy for her. Mrs. Garcia started crying. Mr. Lee patted Min-seo on the head. Everyone was smiling. Your mama is going to be so proud, Mrs. Garcia said. This is a blessing, a real blessing. Min-seo couldn't stop smiling. Her face hurt from smiling so much. After the neighbors went back to their apartments, Min-seo called Jamal. He answered on the first ring. You won't believe what just happened, Min-seo said. What? Jamal asked. I got a letter from NASA. I'm a finalist. I'm going to Johnson Space Center. Jamal screamed so loud that Min-seo had to pull the phone away from her ear. She could hear him jumping around. I knew it. I knew you would make it. This is amazing.
Min-seo, you're going to NASA.
Actual NASA. I can't believe it, Min-seo said. This doesn't feel real. It's real, Jamal said. You earned this. Your project was incredible. Wait until Mrs. Harrison finds out. Oh man, I wish I could see her face. Min-seo had been so excited that she hadn't thought about Mrs. Harrison yet. What would her teacher say when she found out? Would she even believe it? I have to tell Mrs. Chen, Minseo said. Can you meet me at the library? I'm already on my way, Jamal said. Minseo changed out of her school uniform. She put on her nicest clothes, jeans without holes and a clean shirt. She carefully folded the NASA letter and put it in her backpack. Then she ran out of the apartment. She took the bus to the library. She was bouncing in her seat the whole ride. She couldn't sit still. She felt like she might explode with happiness. When she got to the library, Jamal was already there waiting. Mrs. Chen was at their usual table. Minseo ran over to them. I made it, she said. She pulled out the letter. I'm a finalist. Mrs. Chen stood up and hugged Minseo tight. I knew you would make it, she said. I never doubted you for a second. They sat down and Minseo showed them the whole packet. There were forms to fill out. Information about the schedule. A list of what to bring. It was also official and real. December 15th, Mrs. Chen said. That's in 3 weeks. We have a lot to prepare. What do I need to prepare? Minseo asked. Your final presentation, Mrs. Chen said. You'll be presenting to NASA scientists in person. We need to make sure you're ready. We need to practice your speech. We need to anticipate questions they might ask. For the next 2 hours, they worked together. Mrs. Chen helped Minseo practice her presentation. Jamal filmed her so she could watch herself and improve. They went through the project step by step. Remember, Mrs. Chen said, you know this project better than anyone. You created it. You understand every detail. Don't let nervousness make you doubt yourself. When the library closed at 8 p.m., Minseo didn't want to leave. She was too excited to go home and sit still, but she had to tell her mother. She took the bus back to her apartment building. When she got there, she saw that the lights were on in their apartment. Her mother was home. Minseo ran up the stairs. She opened the door. Ji-won was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted from her long day of work. She was eating a simple dinner of rice and soup. Mom, Minseo said. She was out of breath from running. Mom, you won't believe what happened. Ji-won looked up. She saw her daughter's huge smile. She hadn't seen Minseo smile like that in weeks. What is it? Ji-won asked. Minseo pulled out the NASA letter. She handed it to her mother. I entered a science competition. And I won. Well, I'm a finalist. But that means I get to go to NASA. The real NASA. Ji-won read the letter slowly. Her English wasn't perfect, but she understood. Her daughter had been selected for something important. Something national. Something at NASA. Tears started falling down Ji-won's face. My baby, she said in Korean. My smart, brilliant baby. She stood up and hugged Minseo tight. They both cried together. Happy tears this time. I'm so proud of you, Ji-won said. Your grandfather would be so proud. Your grandmother would be so proud. NASA is going to pay for everything, Minseo said. You won't have to miss work or spend any money. They're taking care of the hotel and the flight. When do we go? Ji-won asked. December 15th. It's 3 weeks away. Ji-won looked at her daughter with so much love and pride. This was why she worked 2 jobs. This was why she came to America. This was why she sacrificed everything. So her daughter could have opportunities. So her daughter could achieve her dreams. That night, Minseo couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She kept thinking about what was going to happen. She was going to NASA. She was going to meet real astronauts. She was going to present her project to actual space scientists. But there was something she had to do first. She had to tell her school. She had to tell Mrs. Harrison. The next morning, Minseo got dressed for school. She put the NASA letter in a folder to keep it safe. She put the folder carefully in her backpack. She was nervous. But she was also excited. This was going to be difficult. But it was also going to be satisfying. When she got to school, she went straight to the principal's office. She asked to see Dr. Kim Rodriguez. The secretary told her to wait. After 10 minutes, Dr. Rodriguez called her in. The principal was a woman in her 40s. She was Hispanic and usually seemed nice. But Minseo had never really talked to her before. Hello, Minseo, Dr. Rodriguez said. What can I do for you? Minseo sat down. She took out the NASA letter. Her hands were shaking a little. I need to request time off from school, Minseo said. I've been selected as a finalist in a NASA competition. I need to go to Johnson Space Center for 3 days in December. She handed the letter to Dr. Rodriguez. The principal's eyes got wide as she read it. This is from NASA? Dr. Rodriguez said. The actual space agency? Yes, ma'am, Minseo said. Dr. Rodriguez kept reading. Her expression changed from surprised to impressed to happy. The next day, Minseo received an email from NASA. They confirmed they had received her entry. The message said that finalists would be announced in 3 weeks. 3 weeks felt like forever. Minseo tried not to think about it too much. She went to school. She did her homework. She tried to act normal. But inside she was constantly wondering, did she have a chance? Was her project good enough? At school, Mrs. Harrison's treatment got even worse. It was like she could sense Minseo had done something, like she knew Minseo hadn't given up. On Monday, Mrs. Harrison handed back a test. Everyone got their papers except Minseo. Mrs. Harrison called her to the front of the class. Minseo, I need to speak with you about your test, Mrs. Harrison said loudly. She wanted everyone to hear. Minseo walked to the teacher's desk. Her stomach was tight with fear. Mrs. Harrison held up the test paper. There was a big red 0 at the top. This is completely unacceptable, Mrs. Harrison said. Every single answer is wrong. Every single one. I'm starting to think you're not even trying anymore. Minseo looked at the test. She had tried very hard on it. She had studied for hours. But she looked at Mrs. Harrison's red marks. Many of her correct answers were marked wrong. Again. But Mrs. Harrison, Minseo said quietly, number 3 is correct. The answer is photosynthesis. Don't tell me what's correct, Mrs. Harrison snapped. I have a master's degree in education. You're a child who can barely understand English. Sit down. Minseo took her paper and went back to her seat. Jake was smirking at her. Other kids were whispering. She felt hot shame spreading through her body. After class, Jamal waited for her in the hallway. She's doing this on purpose, Jamal said. This is discrimination. We should report her. To who? Minseo asked. She's the teacher. Nobody will believe us. The principal might listen, Jamal said. But Minseo shook her head. She had no proof. It would be her word against a teacher's word. She was just a kid, a poor immigrant kid with an accent. Who would believe her? The days crawled by slowly. Minseo kept going to the library after school. She didn't have anything specific to work on anymore. But the library felt safe. Mrs. Chen was always there. They would sit together and talk about science and space. Have you heard anything yet? Mrs. Chen would ask each day. Not yet, Minseo would answer. Mrs. Chen told Minseo stories about her own career. She talked about being one of only 3 women in her engineering program. She talked about bosses who wouldn't let her work on important projects. She talked about being paid less than men with less experience. But I never quit, Mrs. Chen said. I kept proving myself over and over. Eventually, I became lead engineer on a major project. I designed components that are still being used today. Not bad for someone they said couldn't do the math. Minseo loved these stories. They made her feel less alone. They made her feel like maybe she could survive this too. At home, Minseo's mother noticed something was wrong. She saw the 0 on Minseo's test paper. How did you get 0? Jiwon asked in Korean. You studied so much for this test? Minseo didn't know what to say. She didn't want to worry her mother more. Her mother already worked so hard. She already had so many problems. I just did badly, Minseo lied. I'll do better next time. But Jiwon knew her daughter. She knew something else was happening. Is the teacher still being mean to you? Jiwon asked. Minseo nodded. Tears started falling down her face. She couldn't hold them back anymore. She hates me, Mom, Minseo said. She gives me wrong grades on purpose. She makes fun of me in front of the class. She tells everyone I'm stupid. Jiwon pulled Minseo into a hug. You are not stupid, she said firmly. You are brilliant. This teacher is the problem, not you. Do you understand me? Not you. Minseo cried on her mother's shoulder. She felt like she was carrying such a heavy weight. School felt like torture every day, and it was only getting worse. 2 weeks passed, still no word from NASA. Minseo started to lose hope. Maybe her project wasn't good enough. Maybe NASA scientists had laughed at it. Maybe Mrs. Harrison was right about her after all. She stopped checking her email constantly. She stopped talking about the competition. When Jamal asked about it, she just shrugged. "I probably didn't make it," Minseo said. "It's fine. I knew it was a long shot." But it wasn't fine. She had put so much hope into that project. She had worked so hard. If she didn't make the finals, she didn't know what she would do. It would mean Mrs. Harrison was right. It would mean she really was unfit to learn. At school, Mrs. Harrison announced the science fair team. 5 students were chosen. They were all white kids from rich families. They all had perfect clothes and expensive supplies. Mrs. Harrison made the announcement in class. She listed each name slowly. When she was done, she looked directly at Minseo. "These 5 students represent the best of Lincoln Middle School," Mrs. Harrison said. "They've shown excellence, dedication, and ability. They'll make us proud at the district competition." Minseo stared at her desk. She felt hollow inside. She knew she wouldn't be chosen, but it still hurt to hear it confirmed. After the announcement, the 5 chosen students gathered at the front of the classroom. They were excited and happy. They talked about their project ideas. Mrs. Harrison smiled at them warmly. She never smiled at Minseo like that. "You 5 will meet after school twice a week," Mrs. Harrison said. "We'll work together to create a winning project. This is a wonderful opportunity for you." Minseo felt invisible. She felt like she didn't exist. The message was clear. She didn't belong in science. She didn't belong in this school. She didn't belong anywhere. That day, Minseo didn't go to the library after school. She went straight home. She lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She felt too empty to cry. She thought about giving up. Maybe she should stop dreaming about space. Maybe she should accept that science wasn't for her. Maybe she should focus on something else, something easier, something where people like Mrs. Harrison wouldn't make her feel worthless. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Jamal. "Where are you?" "Mrs. Chen is worried. We're at the library." Minseo didn't want to go. But Jamal and Mrs. Chen were her only friends. They were the only people who believed in her. She couldn't disappoint them. She got up and took the bus to the library. When she walked in, Mrs. Chen and Jamal were sitting at their usual table. They looked relieved to see her. "We were worried about you," Mrs. Chen said. Minseo sat down. She told them about the science fair announcement. She told them how she felt. "I'm tired," Minseo said. "I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not good enough. Maybe everyone is right. Maybe I should just give up." Mrs. Chen took Minseo's hand. Her hand was old and wrinkled but strong. "Listen to me carefully," Mrs. Chen said. "I'm 76 years old. I've lived through a lot. And I can tell you this with certainty. The people who try to make you feel small do it because they're afraid of you. They see your potential. They see your intelligence, and it threatens them." "Mrs. Harrison isn't afraid of me," Minseo said. "She thinks I'm stupid." "No," Mrs. Chen said. "She knows you're smart. That's why she's trying so hard to crush you. If you were actually stupid, she wouldn't waste her energy. But she sees something in you that scares her. She sees someone who could succeed despite all the obstacles. She sees someone who could prove her wrong." Jamal nodded. "Mrs. Chen is right. Mrs. Harrison is racist and mean. But she's also scared. She's scared that you'll succeed and make her look bad." Minseo wanted to believe them. But she felt so beaten down, so exhausted. "It doesn't matter anyway," Minseo said. "I probably didn't make the NASA finals. It's been 2 weeks. They would have contacted me by now." "The announcement is supposed to come this week," Mrs. Chen reminded her. "Don't give up yet." But Minseo had already given up in her heart. She didn't believe anymore. Hope hurt too much. The next day was exactly 1 week after Mrs. Harrison had called her unfit to learn. 1 week since the worst day of Minseo's life. Nothing had changed. Mrs. Harrison was still mean. Minseo was still failing her class. Everything felt hopeless. Minseo went through her morning classes like a zombie. She didn't raise her hand. She didn't participate. She just sat there and waited for the day to end. During lunch, she sat with Jamal in the cafeteria. He tried to cheer her up with jokes. But Minseo barely smiled. She pushed her food around her tray without eating. "You have to eat something," Jamal said. "I'm not hungry," Minseo said. After lunch, she had science class again. She walked slowly to Mrs. Harrison's classroom. Each step felt heavy. She dreaded these 50 minutes every single day. Mrs. Harrison was in a particularly bad mood. She snapped at several students. She gave them extra homework as punishment for talking. The whole class was tense and unhappy. When the bell finally rang, Minseo grabbed her backpack and hurried out. She just wanted to go home. She wanted to hide in her room and forget about everything. She walked to the bus stop. The bus came after 10 minutes. She got on and sat in the back. She put in her earbuds but didn't play any music. She just wanted to block out the world. The bus dropped her off at her usual stop. She walked to her apartment building. The afternoon sun was hot. The sidewalk was cracked and uneven. She kept her eyes on the ground as she walked. For the next 2 weeks, Minseo lived a double life. At school, she pretended to be small and quiet. She sat in the back of Mrs. Harrison's class and said nothing. She accepted the bad grades without arguing. She made herself invisible. But after school, she became someone else. She became a scientist with a mission. Every day, Minseo went straight to the public library. She got there at 3:30 p.m. when school ended. She stayed until 8 p.m. when the library closed. She sat at the same computer in the corner. She worked on her NASA project. The library was old but clean. It smelled like books and coffee. There were always people there. Homeless people came to use the bathroom and stay warm. Old people came to read newspapers. Kids came to use the computers. Minseo felt at home there. She researched everything about water recycling and space. She learned about the current systems on the International Space Station. She learned about their problems and limitations. She took pages and pages of notes. Her idea was simple but clever. She wanted to create a water filtration system that used natural materials. It would be inspired by traditional Korean methods but designed for zero gravity. It would use less electricity than current systems. It would be lighter and cheaper to send to space. Minseo drew detailed diagrams. She wrote equations. She calculated how much water her system could clean per day. She figured out the weight and size. She thought about every detail. After a week, Jamal started coming to the library after school too. He wanted to help. He was good with technology. "You need a video for your entry, right?" Jamal said. "I can film it with my phone. It's not fancy, but it's decent." "Really?" Minseo said. "You would do that?" "Of course," Jamal said. "We're a team. Plus, I want to see the look on Mrs. Harrison's face when you win." They worked together on the video script. Minseo would present her project. She would explain her design and why it was better than current systems. Jamal would film and edit it. One evening, an old woman sat down at the table next to Minseo. Her name was Mrs. Chen. She was at the library every day. She was Chinese American and probably in her 70s. She always wore nice clothes and read thick books. Mrs. Chen looked at Minseo's papers. She saw the diagrams and equations. "That looks interesting," Mrs. Chen said. "What are you working on?" Minseo was shy at first, but Mrs. Chen seemed kind. Minseo explained her NASA project. She explained about the water recycling system. Mrs. Chen's eyes lit up. "May I see your calculations?" she asked. Minseo showed her the papers. Mrs. Chen studied them carefully. She pointed to one equation. "This calculation is almost correct," Mrs. Chen said, "but you need to account for temperature changes in space. The water will freeze and thaw. That affects the filtration process." Minseo was surprised. "How do you know about this?" Mrs. Chen smiled. "I was an aerospace engineer," she said. "I worked for Boeing in the 1960s and 70s. I helped design parts for the Apollo program." Minseo's mouth fell open. "You worked on the moon missions?" "I did," Mrs. Chen said. "It was a different time. Very few women worked in engineering. Even fewer Chinese women. People didn't believe we could do it. But we proved them wrong." Mrs. Chen came to the library every day after that. She became Minseo's mentor. She checked Minseo's work. She gave advice. She shared stories about her career. "I had teachers who told me engineering was not for girls," Mrs. Chen said one day. "I had bosses who didn't want to hire me, but I didn't let them stop me. You can't let your teacher stop you either." Min Seo told Mrs. Chen everything about Mrs. Harrison, about the humiliation in class, about the wrong grades, about being excluded from the science fair. Mrs. Chen got angry. That woman should not be teaching, she said. She's harming children. But you know what the best revenge is? Success. You finish this project. You show NASA what you can do. That will speak louder than any words. With Mrs. Chen's help, Min Seo's project got better and better. She fixed problems she hadn't noticed. She made her explanations clearer. She added important details. Meanwhile, at school, things got worse. Mrs. Harrison seemed determined to destroy Min Seo's confidence completely. She called on Min Seo in class just to embarrass her. She gave her impossible tasks. She made fun of her accent in front of everyone. One day, Mrs. Harrison announced that she was recommending Min Seo for remedial classes next year. Remedial classes were for students who couldn't keep up with normal coursework. Some students just aren't capable of regular science classes, Mrs. Harrison said to the class while looking at Min Seo. There's no shame in admitting your limitations. Jake and some other kids laughed. Min Seo felt her face burn with shame. But she didn't cry. She refused to cry in front of them anymore. After class, Min Seo went to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall. She let herself cry there where no one could see. Then she washed her face and went to the library. Don't give up, Jamal texted her. Just a few more days. Then you can submit your project. A week later, the school called Min Seo's mother to come in for a meeting. Ji-won had to leave her day job early. She lost 2 hours of pay. She was worried and confused. The meeting was with Mrs. Harrison and the school counselor. Min Seo had to be there too. They all sat in a small office. Mrs. Harrison spoke first. Her voice was sweet and fake. Ms. Park, thank you for coming. We wanted to discuss Min Seo's academic performance. I'm concerned that she may have learning disabilities. Ji-won's English wasn't perfect, but she understood what Mrs. Harrison was saying. Her face got tight. My daughter is very smart, Ji-won said. Her accent was thick. She reads all the time. She loves science. I understand you believe that, Mrs. Harrison said. She talked slowly like Ji-won was stupid. But the facts show something different. Min Seo is failing my class. She can't understand basic concepts. She struggles with English. I think she needs special education services. What does that mean? Ji-won asked. It means classes for students who can't learn at a normal pace, Mrs. Harrison explained. Ji-won stood up. She was angry now. Even with limited English, she understood what was happening. This teacher thought Min Seo was dumb. This teacher thought poor immigrant children didn't belong in regular classes. No, Ji-won said firmly. My daughter is smart. She will be scientist one day. You are wrong about her. Ms. Park, I'm trying to help, Mrs. Harrison said, but there was no kindness in her voice. You are not helping, Ji-won said. You are hurting my daughter. She comes home crying. She has bad dreams. This is because of you. The school counselor tried to calm things down. Let's all take a breath, he said. Maybe we should test Min Seo before making any decisions. The meeting ended badly. Ji-won took Min Seo home. They didn't talk on the bus. When they got to their apartment, Ji-won pulled out an old photo album. She hadn't looked at it in years. She showed Min Seo pictures from Korea. There was a photo of an old man in glasses. He was sitting at a desk covered with papers and books. This is your grandfather, Ji-won said in Korean. My father. He was a mathematics professor at Seoul National University, one of the best mathematicians in Korea. Min Seo had heard about her grandfather before, but she had never seen pictures. He died before she was born. You have his mind, Ji-won said. You have his gift for numbers and science. It's in your blood. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't learn. Your grandfather faced discrimination too. People didn't think a poor farm boy could become a professor, but he proved them wrong. You will prove them wrong too. Ji-won pulled out another photo. It showed a young woman in a laboratory coat. She was beautiful and serious. This is your grandmother, Ji-won said. She was a chemist. She worked at a pharmaceutical company. In those days, very few women worked in science, but she did it anyway. Min Seo looked at the photos with new eyes. She came from scientists. Education and learning were part of her family legacy. Mrs. Harrison was wrong about her. She came from a long line of brilliant people. That night, Min Seo worked extra hard on her project. She was almost done. The written proposal was complete. Tomorrow, she and Jamal would film the video. The next day was Saturday. Minseo and Jamal met at the library at noon. Mrs. Chen was already there waiting. She had offered to help with the video. They set up in a quiet corner of the library. Jamal positioned his phone on a stack of books. Minseo sat at a table with her diagrams and model spread out in front of her. "Remember," Mrs. Chen said, "speak clearly and confidently. You know this material better than anyone. Show them your passion." Jamal started recording. "Whenever you're ready," he said. Minseo took a deep breath. Then she began. "Hello. My name is Minseo Park. I'm a 7th grade student at Lincoln Middle School in Houston, Texas. I'm presenting my design for an improved water recycling system for long-term space missions." Her voice was steady. Her accent was there, but she spoke clearly. She explained her design step by step. She showed her diagrams. She explained the science behind it. She talked about why her system was better than current technology. She spoke for 6 minutes. When she finished, Jamal stopped recording. "That was perfect," he said. "You sounded like a real NASA scientist." Mrs. Chen was smiling. "That was excellent, Minseo. You should be very proud." They watched the video together. Minseo cringed at seeing herself on screen. But she had to admit it looked good. She sounded smart and professional. Minseo woke up 2 hours later. She heard a key turning in the front door. Her mother was home. Ji-won walked into the apartment carrying plastic bags full of groceries. She looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her cleaning uniform was dirty. But she smiled when she saw Minseo. "You're home early," Ji-won said in Korean. "Are you sick?" Minseo sat up on her bed. She didn't want to tell her mother what happened. Her mother worked so hard, she didn't need more problems to worry about. "I'm okay," Minseo said. "Just tired." Ji-won came into Minseo's room. She sat down on the bed next to her daughter. She put her hand on Minseo's forehead to check for fever. "You've been crying," Ji-won said. She could always tell. "What happened?" "Nothing, Mom, really." "Minseo," Ji-won said softly. "I'm your mother. I know when something is wrong. Tell me." Minseo looked at her mother's tired face. She couldn't tell her. "Not today. Just a bad day at school," Minseo said. "It's okay now." Ji-won looked worried, but she didn't push. She kissed Minseo's head and went to the kitchen to make dinner. That night, Minseo couldn't eat. She pushed rice around her bowl. Her mother watched her with concerned eyes but said nothing. After dinner, Minseo sat at her desk. She opened her old laptop. It was 5 years old and very slow. Her mother had bought it used for $50. Minseo used it every night to watch videos about space. She opened her favorite website. It showed videos of rocket launches. She watched a SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch. The 3 boosters fired together. The rocket climbed into the sky with fire and smoke. It was beautiful. Minseo remembered the first time she saw a rocket launch. She was 7 years old. Her mother had taken her to the public library on a Saturday. The librarian was showing a video on the big screen. It was a NASA rocket going to the International Space Station. Minseo had been amazed. She couldn't believe humans could build something that could leave Earth. She couldn't believe people could live in space. From that moment, she was hooked. Space became her whole world. She started reading every book about space she could find. She learned about planets, stars, galaxies, and black holes. She learned about astronauts and rocket scientists. She learned about Mars and the plans to send humans there. Every night she would draw pictures of rockets and space stations. She would write stories about exploring other planets. Her mother would find her asleep at her desk with a pencil still in her hand. Minseo looked at her wall of space pictures. She felt tears coming again. Maybe all of this was stupid. Maybe she should give up these impossible dreams. She closed her laptop and went to bed early. But she couldn't sleep. Mrs. Harrison's words kept echoing in her mind. The next morning, Minseo didn't want to go to school. She felt sick with fear. But her mother had already left for work. Minseo had to go. She walked slowly to the bus stop. The bus ride felt too short. Soon she was walking through the school doors again. Minseo went to her first class. It was math. She sat in the back and tried to be invisible. But she loved math. She was actually very good at it. When the teacher asked a question, Minseo knew the answer. But she didn't raise her hand. She stayed quiet. Third period was science class with Mrs. Harrison again. Minseo's stomach hurt as she walked into the classroom. Mrs. Harrison was already there, sitting at her desk. She looked at Mincio with cold eyes. Mincio quickly went to her seat in the corner. The class started. Mrs. Harrison talked about the water cycle. It was boring. Mincio already knew everything about it. She had read about it years ago. Mrs. Harrison gave them a worksheet to complete. It had 10 questions. Mincio finished it in 5 minutes. All her answers were correct. She knew they were. She took her worksheet to Mrs. Harrison's desk. "Done already?" Mrs. Harrison said. She didn't sound impressed. She sounded annoyed. "Yes, ma'am," Mincio said quietly. Mrs. Harrison looked at the worksheet. She picked up her red pen. She marked the first answer wrong. Then the second. Then the third. Mincio watched in shock. Her answers were right. She knew they were right. "You got a 50%, Mrs. Harrison said. She wrote a big red F at the top. "You need to pay better attention in class." "But Mrs. Harrison," Mincio said, "those answers are correct. The water cycle starts with evaporation, then condensation, then—" "Are you arguing with me?" Mrs. Harrison interrupted. Her voice was sharp. "I've been teaching science for 20 years. I think I know the correct answers." Mincio wanted to argue more, but she knew it was useless. Mrs. Harrison had already decided that Mincio was stupid. Nothing would change her mind. Mincio took the worksheet and went back to her seat. She looked at the red marks. Every single answer she got wrong was actually correct. Mrs. Harrison was lying. She was giving Mincio bad grades on purpose. After class, Mincio stayed behind. She needed to know something. "Mrs. Harrison," she said, "the school science fair is next month. Can I be on the team?" Every year, Lincoln Middle School sent a team of 5 students to the district science fair. It was a big competition. Schools from all over Houston participated. Mincio had been dreaming about it all year. Mrs. Harrison looked up from her papers. She almost laughed. "The science fair team?" she said. "No, Mincio. That's for our top students, students who have demonstrated excellence in science." "But I have good grades in science," Mincio said. "I had an A average last year." "That was last year," Mrs. Harrison said. "This year you're barely passing. I've already selected the team. You're not on it." Mincio felt like she'd been slapped. She turned and walked out of the classroom. Her eyes were burning with tears again. In the hallway, someone called her name. It was Jamal. He was her best friend. They had met in 5th grade. Jamal was African American and also poor. He also faced mean treatment from some teachers. "Hey, what's wrong?" Jamal asked. He could see Mincio was upset. Mincio told him everything. She told him about the presentation yesterday. She told him about the wrong grades today. She told him about the science fair. Jamal's face got angry. "That's messed up," he said. "Mrs. Harrison is racist. Everyone knows it. She treats all the black and brown kids like we're stupid." "I don't know what to do," Mincio said. "She's going to fail me, and there's nothing I can do about it." "Yes, there is," Jamal said. "Don't give up. That's what she wants. She wants you to quit." They sat together at lunch. Jamal tried to cheer Mincio up. He told her jokes. He reminded her how smart she was. "Remember that time you explained quantum physics to me?" Jamal said. "You made it make sense. You're brilliant, Mincio. Don't let that hateful woman tell you different." After school, Mincio went to the public library. It was her favorite place in the world. She felt safe there. She felt like she could be herself. She sat at her usual computer. She needed to do something. She needed to prove to herself that she wasn't stupid, that she could do science, that she belonged. Mincio opened the library's web browser. She searched for science competitions for students. She found many, but most of them cost money to enter. Her family didn't have extra money. Then she found something interesting. NASA's Young Innovators Challenge. It was a national competition for middle school students. They had to design something that could help future space missions. The entry was free. The deadline was in 2 weeks. Mincio read all the details. Students had to submit a written proposal and a video presentation. The judges were real NASA scientists and engineers. 50 finalists would be chosen from across the country. Those 50 would be invited to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston for the final competition. Her heart started beating fast. This was it. This was her chance. She clicked on the entry form. It asked for her name, school, and project idea. Mincio stared at the blank form. What could she design? It had to be something useful. Something NASA scientists would care about. She thought about her destroyed Mars project. She thought about water recycling. That was important for space travel. Astronauts needed water to drink. They needed water to grow food. They needed water for many things. But water is heavy. It costs a lot of money to send things to space. Mincio started typing. Her project would be about a new kind of water recycling system for space stations. It would be based on natural filtration methods. She had read about how people in ancient Korea used to purify water using sand, rocks, and charcoal. Maybe she could adapt that for space. She spent 3 hours at the library that day. She researched and took notes. She started writing her proposal. When the library closed at 8 p.m., she saved her work on a USB drive and went home. Her mother was already asleep. She had to wake up at 4 a.m. for work. Mincio went to her room. She lay in bed and stared at her space pictures. For the first time in 2 days, she felt a little bit of hope. Maybe she couldn't be on the school science fair team. Maybe Mrs. Harrison would keep giving her bad grades, but nobody could stop her from entering the NASA competition. Mincio decided something that night. She would work harder than ever before. She would make her project perfect. She would show everyone what she could do. She would prove that she was fit to learn. She would prove that she belonged in science. Mrs. Harrison had tried to break her spirit, but she had failed. Mincio was stronger than that. Mincio Park stood at the front of her classroom with shaking hands. She was 12 years old and very nervous. Her science project sat on the teacher's desk. It was made from cardboard boxes and old plastic bottles. She had spent 3 weeks making it. The project was about Mars and how people could live there one day. Her school uniform was old and had small holes in it. The white shirt was turning yellow because it had been washed so many times. Her shoes were too big. They used to belong to someone else. Mincio's mother bought them at a thrift store for $2. 25 students sat in front of her. Some were talking to each other. Some were looking at their phones under their desks. Only a few students were paying attention to her. Mrs. Harrison sat at her desk in the back of the room. She was the science teacher. She was 50 years old and had been teaching for 20 years. She wore expensive clothes and always had perfect makeup. She looked at Mincio with cold eyes. Mincio took a deep breath. She started talking about her project. Her English had a Korean accent. Sometimes she had trouble finding the right words. But she knew everything about her project. She had read 15 library books about Mars. She had watched hundreds of videos about space. Mars is the 4th planet from the sun, Mincio said. Her voice was quiet. It is very cold there. The temperature can be minus 100 degrees. But scientists think people can live there someday. My project shows how we can make water on Mars. We can melt the ice that is under the ground. She pointed to her cardboard model. It showed a small habitat on Mars. She had painted it red like the Mars soil. There were tiny plastic figures of astronauts. She had drawn solar panels on the roof. The people will need water to drink, Mincio continued. They will also need water to grow food. My design shows a system that can clean and reuse water many times. This is very important because we cannot send water from Earth. It costs too much money. Mrs. Harrison suddenly stood up. Her chair made a loud sound on the floor. Everyone looked at her. Stop, Mrs. Harrison said. Her voice was sharp and mean. Just stop right there. Mincio's face turned red. Her heart started beating very fast. She felt sick to her stomach. I've heard enough of this nonsense, Mrs. Harrison said. She walked to the front of the classroom. Her high heels clicked on the floor. This is supposed to be a 7th grade science presentation, not a kindergarten show and tell. Some students laughed. Mincio wanted to disappear. She looked down at her shoes. Look at me when I'm talking to you, Mrs. Harrison said. She was now standing very close to Mincio. You can barely speak English correctly. How do you expect to understand advanced scientific concepts? Mincio's eyes filled with tears. She tried very hard not to cry. Mars colonization requires understanding of physics, chemistry, and engineering, Mrs. Harrison continued. These are complex subjects. They require a certain level of intelligence and background. The teacher picked up Mincio's project. She looked at it like it was garbage. This is made from trash, Mrs. Harrison said. Cardboard boxes and plastic bottles. Is this really the best you can do? Other students have real models. They have computer presentations. They have professional materials. I don't have money for those things, Mincio whispered. I used what I could find. That's exactly my point, Mrs. Harrison said. She put the project back down hard. One of the cardboard pieces fell off. You're not ready for this level of education. You're unfit to learn these advanced topics. The words hit Minseo like a punch. Unfit to learn. The phrase echoed in her head. Maybe you should focus on simpler subjects. Mrs. Harrison continued. Home economics. Art class. Something more suitable for someone with your background. Minseo knew what Mrs. Harrison meant. She meant someone poor, someone with a Korean accent, someone who was different from the other students. A boy named Jake started laughing loudly. She thinks she's going to Mars, he said. Other students joined in. The laughter filled the room like poison. That's enough, Mrs. Harrison said, but she was smiling a little. Minseo, please sit down. We've wasted enough class time on this. Minseo tried to pick up her project. Her hands were shaking so much that she dropped it. The cardboard pieces scattered across the floor. The plastic bottles rolled under desks. Her Mars habitat was destroyed. She got down on her knees and tried to pick up the pieces. Tears were falling down her cheeks now. She couldn't stop them anymore. Leave it, Mrs. Harrison said. The janitor will clean it up. Go back to your seat, Minseo stood up. She left her broken project on the floor. She walked back to her desk in the far corner of the room. Every step felt like it took forever. She could feel everyone looking at her. She could hear them whispering. She sat down and put her head on her desk. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to go home. She wanted to never come back to this school again. The bell rang 40 minutes later. Minseo waited until everyone else left the classroom. Then she quietly picked up her backpack. It was old and had a broken zipper. She walked past her destroyed project still lying on the floor. Mrs. Harrison was erasing the whiteboard. She didn't look at Minseo. She acted like nothing had happened. Minseo walked out of the classroom. The hallway was crowded with students. They were laughing and talking. They were going to lunch. Minseo didn't feel hungry. She felt sick and empty. She pushed open the school's back door and went outside. The Texas sun was hot and bright. She started running. She didn't know where she was going. She just needed to get away. She ran past the football field. She ran past the parking lot. She ran until she reached the bus stop 3 blocks away from school. She sat down on the bench and cried. A bus came after 15 minutes. Minseo got on. She had a student bus pass. She could ride for free. She sat in the back and looked out the window. The bus drove through nice neighborhoods with big houses. Then it drove through poor neighborhoods with small apartments. Minseo's stop was in the poorest part of the city. She got off the bus and walked to her apartment building. It was old and made of dirty gray concrete. Some windows were broken. The paint was peeling off the walls. But it was home. Minseo climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The elevator had been broken for 2 years. She took out her key and opened the door to apartment 3C. The apartment was small. It had 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom. The furniture was old, but her mother kept everything very clean. Her mother wasn't home yet. She was at work. Jiwon worked 2 jobs. During the day, she cleaned offices downtown. At night, she cleaned a hospital. She worked 14 hours every day except Sunday. Minseo went to her bedroom. It was very small. There was only room for a bed and a small desk. The walls were covered with pictures of space. She had cut them out of magazines from the library. There were photos of rockets, planets, stars, and astronauts. She sat on her bed and looked at the pictures. She had dreamed about space since she was 7 years old. She had watched a video about the Mars rover at the library. Since that day, she knew she wanted to be a scientist. She wanted to explore space. She wanted to help humans reach other planets, but maybe Mrs. Harrison was right. Maybe she was unfit to learn. Maybe poor girls with accents couldn't become scientists. Maybe her dreams were too big. Minseo lay down on her bed. She was still wearing her school uniform. She stared at the ceiling. The afternoon sunlight came through her small window. She could hear children playing outside. She could hear cars driving by. She closed her eyes. Mrs. Harrison's words played in her mind again and again. Unfit to learn. Not ready for this level. Something more suitable for your background. Minseo had never felt so small in her entire life. Can you help me with my chemistry homework sometime? Jake asked. I'm really struggling. Sure, Minseo said. I can help. Things kept getting better. Minseo's grades improved in all her classes now that Mrs. Harrison was gone. She made new friends. She joined the robotics club. She started tutoring other students in math and science. Her mother was able to cut back to one job. Some people from their church heard about their situation and helped them. Jiwon could finally spend more time at home with Min-seo. One Saturday afternoon, Min-seo was at home working on homework. Her laptop was open. She was doing research for a history project. An email notification popped up. It was from Dr. Martinez at NASA. "Hi, Min-seo," the email said. "I wanted to check in on how you're doing. I also wanted to let you know about an exciting opportunity. NASA is starting a new mentorship program for promising young students interested in aerospace engineering. I'd like to nominate you for the program. Are you interested?" Min-seo typed back immediately. "Yes, I'm very interested. Thank you so much for thinking of me." She sat back and looked around her small bedroom. The walls were still covered with pictures of space. The same pictures that had been there for years. But now they felt different. They didn't feel like impossible dreams anymore. They felt like goals she could actually reach. 3 months later, the summer arrived. Min-seo packed her bags for NASA Space Camp. She would be gone for 6 weeks. She was nervous but excited. The night before she left, her mother sat with her in her bedroom. "I'm so proud of you," Jiwon said in Korean. "Not just because of NASA, but because of who you are. You faced cruelty and discrimination, but you didn't let it break you. You kept believing in yourself. That takes strength. I wanted to give up so many times," Min-seo admitted. "If it wasn't for you and Jamal and Mrs. Chen, I would have quit." "But you didn't quit," Jiwon said. "And that's what matters. You know what your grandfather used to say? He said that success is not about being the smartest person. It's about being the person who refuses to give up." Min-seo hugged her mother tight. The next morning, Jiwon drove Min-seo to the airport. This time Min-seo was flying alone. She was nervous but ready. At the airport, she said goodbye to her mother. Jamal and Mrs. Chen were there too. They had come to see her off. "You're going to do amazing things," Mrs. Chen said. "I know it. Don't forget to call us," Jamal said. "And take lots of pictures. I want to hear about everything." Min-seo went through security. She turned back and waved at her family and friends. Then she walked to her gate. On the plane, Min-seo pulled out her journal. She had started keeping a journal after the NASA competition. She wanted to remember everything she wrote. 6 months ago, I was told I was unfit to learn. Today, I'm flying to NASA Space Camp. Life is strange and beautiful. Mrs. Harrison tried to kill my dreams, but she just made me stronger. She made me more determined. In trying to push me down, she pushed me forward. Min-seo looked out the airplane window as they took off. Houston got smaller below her. She thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the struggle, the victory. She thought about all the other kids out there like her. Kids who were being told they weren't smart enough. Kids who were facing discrimination. Kids who were being pushed down by people who should be lifting them up. She made a promise to herself. She would succeed. She would become a scientist. She would work at NASA. And she would help other kids like her. She would be the mentor she wished she'd had. She would be the teacher who believed in students even when they didn't believe in themselves. The plane climbed higher into the sky. Min-seo closed her journal and smiled. She was on her way. 6 years later, Min-seo graduated from high school as valedictorian. She had straight A's. She had perfect test scores. She had dozens of awards and achievements. She gave the graduation speech. She talked about her journey. She talked about facing obstacles. She talked about the importance of believing in yourself even when others don't believe in you. "Someone once told me I was unfit to learn," Min-seo said to the crowd. "That person was wrong. I learned, I grew, I achieved. But more importantly, I survived. And I'm here to tell every student listening. If someone tells you that you can't do something, prove them wrong. Use their doubt as fuel. Use their cruelty as motivation. Don't let anyone else define your worth or determine your future." The crowd gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. After graduation, Min-seo received multiple scholarship offers. She chose MIT. She got a full scholarship to study aerospace engineering. She was going to one of the best engineering schools in the world. But before she left for MIT, she did one more thing. She went back to visit Mrs. Chen at the library. The old woman was now 82 but still came to the library every day. "I wanted to thank you," Min-seo said. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me hope. You changed my life, Mrs. Chen smiled. You changed your own life, she said. I just reminded you of what you already were. A brilliant, determined young woman with the strength to overcome anything. Minseo hugged her mentor. I'm going to make you proud, she said. You already have, Mrs. Chen said. At MIT, Minseo thrived. She made the dean's list every semester. She joined research labs. She published papers. She won more awards. During her sophomore year, she started a mentorship program. She worked with local middle schools to mentor girls and students of color who were interested in STEM. She told them her story. She encouraged them. She showed them that success was possible. She also became an advocate for education reform. She gave talks about discrimination in schools. She worked with organizations fighting for equal treatment of all students. She shared her story again and again, hoping it would help others. During her junior year at MIT, she got an email that made her cry. It was from NASA. They were offering her a summer internship at Johnson Space Center. She would be working on water recycling systems for the planned Mars missions. Her project from middle school had come full circle. She was going to actually work on the problem she had tried to solve when she was 12 years old. The internship was incredible. Minseo worked with real NASA engineers. She contributed to actual space missions. She even got to meet some of the astronauts who would eventually use the systems she helped design. On her last day of the internship, Dr. Martinez invited her to lunch. I've been watching your progress, Dr. Martinez said. You've done exceptional work here. I want you to know that we'd love to hire you after graduation. NASA needs people like you. Minseo felt tears in her eyes. This was her dream, her impossible, beautiful dream, and it was becoming real. I would be honored, Minseo said. After she graduated from MIT, Minseo joined NASA as a full-time aerospace engineer. She was 22 years old and working at the agency she had dreamed about since she was 7. She worked on life support systems for the Artemis program that would return humans to the moon. She contributed to designs for the eventual Mars missions. She was helping humanity reach for the stars, but she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the poor girl with the cardboard Mars project. She never forgot the cruelty of Mrs. Harrison. She never forgot the pain of being told she was unfit to learn. She used her story to inspire others. She spoke at schools. She mentored students. She fought for educational equity. She made sure that other kids wouldn't face what she had faced. 10 years after that terrible day in Mrs. Harrison's classroom, Minseo stood in mission control at Johnson Space Center. She was part of the team monitoring a mission to the International Space Station. She looked at the screens showing the space station orbiting Earth. She thought about the 12-year-old girl who had dreamed about this. The girl who had been humiliated and hurt. The girl who had almost given up. That girl had survived. That girl had thrived. That girl had won. Minseo smiled. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to her mother, to Jamal, and to Mrs. Chen. I made it. We made it. Thank you for believing in me. Her mother texted back immediately. We always knew you would fly to the stars, my brilliant daughter. Minseo looked back at the screens. An astronaut was floating in the space station, drinking water from a recycling system that Minseo had helped improve. She thought about Mrs. Harrison. She wondered where that teacher was now. Whether she ever thought about Minseo, whether she ever regretted her cruelty. Minseo hoped that Mrs. Harrison somehow knew how wrong she had been. She hoped that her story reached that woman and made her realize the harm she had caused. But mostly, Minseo just felt grateful. Grateful for the people who had believed in her. Grateful for the strength she found in herself. Grateful for every moment that led her here. One person's cruelty had tried to clip her wings, but a community's belief had given her the sky, and she had flown higher than anyone ever expected. The envelope contained information about Minseo's prize. She had won a full scholarship to NASA's summer space camp. She would spend 6 weeks the next summer learning from NASA scientists and engineers. She would also receive ongoing mentorship from Dr. Martinez for the next year. The audience stood up and clapped. Minseo looked out and saw her mother in the crowd. Ji-won was crying and clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. Next to her were Jamal and Mrs. Chen. They had driven to Johnson Space Center that morning to watch the final ceremony. They were all crying too. Minseo held her trophy tight. She had done it. She had actually done it. After the ceremony, a local news reporter approached Minseo. The story about the Houston girl who placed fourth in a national NASA competition was going to be big news. "How does it feel?" the reporter asked. Min Seo thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation, the pain, the tears, the fear, and now this moment of triumph. "It feels like proof," Min Seo said. "Proof that hard work matters. Proof that you shouldn't give up even when people tell you that you're not good enough." The interview aired that evening on Houston's biggest news station. By the next morning, it had gone viral online. The video spread across social media. Thousands of people shared it. When Min Seo returned to school on Monday, everything had changed. There was a banner in the main hallway. "Congratulations, Min Seo Park, NASA Young Innovators Challenge finalist, 4th place national." Dr. Rodriguez called an emergency school assembly. The entire school gathered in the auditorium. Min Seo had to go up on stage again. She was getting used to this now. Dr. Rodriguez spoke to the students and teachers. "Min Seo Park has brought honor to our school," she said. "She has shown exceptional talent, dedication, and perseverance. She represents the very best of what our students can achieve." The students clapped and cheered. Min Seo's classmates were looking at her with respect now. Even Jake, who had laughed at her before, was clapping. But one person was missing from the auditorium. Mrs. Harrison was not there. After the assembly, Dr. Rodriguez took Min Seo aside. "I have some news," the principal said. "The investigation into Mrs. Harrison is complete. We found clear evidence of discriminatory behavior toward multiple students. Mrs. Harrison has been terminated from her position. She will not be returning to this school." Min Seo felt a mix of emotions: relief, satisfaction, but also sadness that it had taken so long. How many other students had Mrs. Harrison hurt over the years? "I'm sorry we didn't catch this sooner," Dr. Rodriguez said. "But thank you for having the courage to speak up. You helped protect other students." Over the next few weeks, Min Seo's life changed in ways she never expected. The story about her achievement reached people all over the country. She received hundreds of messages from students who had faced similar discrimination. They told her she inspired them. They told her she gave them hope. A reporter from a major magazine wanted to interview her. They wrote a feature article, "From Unfit to Learn to NASA Finalist, One Girl's Journey." The article included Min Seo's story. It included quotes from her mother, from Jamal, from Mrs. Chen. It talked about Mrs. Harrison's discrimination and the school's investigation. The article was shared thousands of times. Then something amazing happened. Mrs. Chen called Min Seo one evening. "I have a surprise for you," Mrs. Chen said. "Come to the library tomorrow. Bring your mother." The next day, Min Seo and Ji-won went to the library. There was a small ceremony happening in the community room. About 20 people were there, including Dr. Rodriguez, Jamal, and several teachers from Lincoln Middle School. Mrs. Chen stood at the front of the room. She smiled at Min Seo. "Min Seo's achievement inspired me," Mrs. Chen said. "It reminded me of my own struggles as a young engineer. I want to help other students like Min Seo, students who have talent and dreams but face obstacles." Mrs. Chen held up a check. "I am establishing the Min Seo Park Scholarship Fund for immigrant students pursuing STEM education. I am making an initial donation of $50,000. I hope others will contribute as well." Min Seo couldn't believe it. A scholarship fund in her name, to help other students like her. "You changed my life, Min Seo," Mrs. Chen said. "Now I want to help you change other lives." Min Seo ran to Mrs. Chen and hugged her. Everyone in the room was crying. Over the next month, other people donated to the scholarship fund. Students, teachers, local business owners. Even some NASA employees who had heard Min Seo's story donated. The fund grew to over $100,000. At school, Min Seo joined the science fair team. The new science teacher, Mr. Johnson, personally invited her. He was young and enthusiastic and actually cared about all his students. "We need your expertise," Mr. Johnson said. "Will you help lead our team?" Min Seo became the team captain. She worked with 4 other students to create a project about renewable energy. They worked hard together. There was no discrimination, no cruelty, just students who loved science working toward a common goal. In March, they went to the district science fair. Their project won first place. They advanced to the state competition. Jake, the boy who had laughed at Min Seo months earlier, came up to her after the win. "Hey, Min Seo," he said. He looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry for laughing at you before. That was messed up. You're really smart and I was being a jerk. Min Seo appreciated the apology. Thank you, she said. I accept your apology. Mrs. Harrison's face was red with anger and embarrassment. She looked at the NASA letter like it was poison. She couldn't believe what she was reading. Well, Mrs. Harrison said finally. Her voice was tight and cold. I suppose anyone can be selected as a finalist. That doesn't mean you'll win anything. Dr. Rodriguez's friendly expression disappeared. She looked at Mrs. Harrison with sharp eyes. Being selected from 5,000 entries is an exceptional achievement, Dr. Rodriguez said firmly. Min Seo should be very proud. We're all very proud of her. Mrs. Harrison's jaw clenched. She put the letter down on her desk like she didn't want to touch it anymore. Yes, of course, Mrs. Harrison said. But her voice said something different. Congratulations, Min Seo. The words sounded forced and fake. Min Seo could tell Mrs. Harrison didn't mean them. Min Seo will need to miss 3 days of school in December, Dr. Rodriguez said. I want to make sure that won't be a problem in your class. Fine, Mrs. Harrison said shortly. Dr. Rodriguez stared at Mrs. Harrison for a long moment. Something passed between them. A silent understanding. Dr. Rodriguez had noticed something was wrong. Actually, Mrs. Harrison, I'd like to speak with you in my office later today, Dr. Rodriguez said. I have some concerns about your class that we need to discuss. Mrs. Harrison's face got even redder. She nodded stiffly. Min Seo and Dr. Rodriguez left the classroom. Once they were in the hallway, Dr. Rodriguez turned to Min Seo. Has Mrs. Harrison been treating you unfairly? She asked gently. Min Seo didn't know what to say. She didn't want to get in trouble. She didn't want to make things worse. It's okay, Dr. Rodriguez said. You can tell me the truth. I've heard some things from other staff members. I should have looked into it sooner. Min Seo took a deep breath. Then she told Dr. Rodriguez everything. About the humiliation during her presentation. About the wrong grades. About being called unfit to learn. About being excluded from the science fair team. About the meeting where Mrs. Harrison said she had learning disabilities. Dr. Rodriguez listened carefully. Her expression got more serious with each sentence. Thank you for telling me, Dr. Rodriguez said. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm going to investigate this matter. In the meantime, if Mrs. Harrison treats you poorly again, I want you to come directly to me. Understood? Min Seo nodded. She felt relieved. Finally, someone in authority believed her. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Min Seo's life completely changed. First, Dr. Rodriguez called a school assembly. She announced Min Seo's achievement to the entire school. Students and teachers clapped. Min Seo had to stand up on stage. She felt embarrassed, but also proud. Mrs. Harrison was sitting in the back of the auditorium. Her face looked like stone. She didn't clap. After the assembly, students Min Seo had never talked to came up to her. They congratulated her. They asked her questions about NASA. She went from being invisible to being someone everyone wanted to talk to. Jamal was so proud. You're famous now, he joked. Don't forget about me when you're a big NASA scientist. The local news heard about Min Seo's achievement. A reporter came to interview her at the library. They filmed her talking about her project. The story aired on the evening news. Houston student selected for national NASA competition, the headline said. Min Seo's face was on TV. Her mother recorded it on her phone and watched it over and over. Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez started investigating Mrs. Harrison's classroom. She talked to other students. She looked at grade records. She discovered that Mrs. Harrison had a pattern of giving poor grades to students of color, especially immigrant students. 3 other students came forward with complaints. They had been afraid to speak up before. But seeing Min Seo's bravery gave them courage. Mrs. Harrison was placed on administrative leave while the investigation continued. A substitute teacher took over the science class. The new teacher was young and kind. Min Seo actually enjoyed science class for the first time all year. At the library, Mrs. Chen helped Min Seo prepare for her NASA presentation every single day. They practiced over and over. Mrs. Chen asked difficult questions so Min Seo would be ready for anything. Remember, Mrs. Chen said, NASA scientists will want to know details. They'll ask about calculations. They'll ask about practical problems. You need to be ready. Min-seo memorized every aspect of her project. She could answer any question about her water recycling system. She knew the math, she knew the science, she knew the engineering. Finally, December 15th arrived. Min-seo and her mother woke up at 4 a.m. They had to be at the airport by 6 a.m. for their flight. Min-seo had never been on an airplane before. Neither had her mother. They were both nervous and excited. They checked their bags and went through security. Everything was new and scary. When the plane took off, Min-seo grabbed her mother's hand. The force pushed them back into their seats. Then they were in the air. Min-seo looked out the window and saw Houston getting smaller and smaller below them. "We're flying," Ji-won said in Korean. She had tears in her eyes. "My daughter is flying to NASA." The flight was only 2 hours. It felt both too long and too short. When they landed, a NASA representative was waiting for them at the airport. She was holding a sign with Min-seo's name. "Welcome," the woman said. Her name was Ms. Patterson. "We're so excited you're here. Let's get you to the hotel so you can rest before tonight's welcome dinner." The hotel was nice, nicer than any place Min-seo had ever stayed. There were 2 big beds, a TV, and a bathroom with soft towels. Her mother looked around in amazement. That evening, all 50 finalists and their families gathered for a welcome dinner at the hotel. Min-seo walked into the banquet room and couldn't believe what she saw. There were kids from all over the country, different races, different backgrounds. All of them had made it here. Min-seo met a girl named Sarah from California, a boy named Marcus from New York, a girl named Priya from Michigan. They all shared their stories. Many of them had faced doubts too. Many had been told they weren't good enough. "My math teacher said girls aren't good at engineering," Sarah said. "So I entered this competition to prove her wrong. My guidance counselor said I should focus on sports instead of science," Marcus said. "He said I'd never make it as a scientist." They all understood each other. They had all fought to be here. The next morning was the first official day of the competition. Everyone put on their visitor badges. They took buses to Johnson Space Center. Min-seo had seen pictures of NASA online, but being there in person was completely different. The buildings were huge. There were rockets and spacecraft everywhere. It felt like being in a dream. Their first stop was Mission Control, the actual mission control where NASA monitors space missions. Min-seo stood in the room where people controlled the International Space Station. She could barely breathe. This was real. She was really at NASA. A NASA engineer gave them a tour. He explained how they communicate with astronauts in space. He showed them the huge screens that track the space station's orbit. Min-seo asked question after question. She couldn't help herself. "You ask good questions," the engineer said, smiling. "Have you thought about working here someday?" "It's my dream," Min-seo said. "Keep studying," he said. "We need smart young people like you." After the tour, it was time for Min-seo to meet her assigned mentor. She was taken to a small office. A woman was waiting there. She was in her 30s with dark hair and kind eyes. "Hello, Min-seo," the woman said. "I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez. I'm an aerospace engineer here at NASA. I'll be your mentor for this competition." They sat down together. Dr. Martinez had already reviewed Min-seo's project in detail. "Your water recycling design is really innovative, Dr. Rao," Martinez said. "I especially like how you combine traditional purification methods with modern space technology. That kind of creative thinking is what we need." They spent 2 hours going over Min-seo's project. Dr. Martinez suggested some improvements. She explained technical details Min-seo hadn't understood before. She shared her own experiences as an engineer. "I grew up in a poor neighborhood in San Antonio," Dr. Martinez said. "My family came from Mexico. Some teachers didn't think I belonged in advanced classes, but I loved math and science. I worked hard and here I am. If I can do it, so can you." Min-seo felt tears in her eyes. Dr. Martinez understood. She had been through the same things. That afternoon, Minseo had her presentation. She walked into a room with 5 NASA scientists sitting at a table. Her legs felt weak. Her heart was pounding. But then she remembered everything Mrs. Chen had taught her. She remembered her grandfather, the math professor. She remembered her grandmother, the chemist. She came from scientists. This was in her blood. Minseo took a deep breath. Then she began her presentation. She explained her water recycling system clearly and confidently. She showed her diagrams. She walked through her calculations. She explained why her design was better than current systems. The scientists listened carefully. They took notes. They nodded. When she finished, they asked questions. How would your system handle temperature variations in space? One scientist asked. Minseo had practiced this answer. She explained the insulation and heating elements in her design. What about maintenance? Another scientist asked. How often would filters need to be replaced?